Hello and welcome to Rauta's Reviews. This time we go to Norway with something different. This is Afargang and their debut album. As you can see, pretty moody cover featuring not only the artist but this main instrument, fiddle. And this is what he's known for, playing fiddle and creating folk music, but he has always been a metalhead, according to the information coming from the band, peer letters and whatsoever. So we are mainly talking about this one individual, whom I will present you a little bit more detailed in a bit. But first, we'll obviously take a look at this nice looking CD release. Here it is, with the arrangements, music, etc., as well as the guest musicians. And this is obviously how the booklet looks. So you have the lyrics, you have the moody photography parts, some Norwegian wood, I'm guessing, because this is coming from Norway. And now when people are most likely thinking, okay, is it something black metal related? Pretty much no, but obviously there are always links to that when we're talking about Norwegian metal. Now, jokes aside, I need to do one more. Think about this name, Afargang. Afargang. Obviously, this is not an English name, but it really translates to a poor man's joke. So let's keep the first mailing list things here and talk about this Norwegian folk metal. I actually like when bands have these good websites to give you a little bit of a glimpse to the whole idea before you just venture to the music. I mean, there are so many band sites that are too vague, or they are too keen to talk about the next gigs and tours and whatever, when you just want the basic information, especially with artists like this who don't even have a Metal Archive site for yet. I mean, this is a metal band after all, but Metal Archives have been lagging when it comes to music like this, and I get it. It's hard to get into because it's really half folk music and half metal music. But here it is, Norwegian folk metal, and I think this is something that people need to understand. This is very, very true. This is indeed folk metal, and I'll explain why. But first, we'll talk about this artist in question, Olav Mjelvia. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but here you go. And here it is mentioned he has playing fiddle in bands like Sver, the Nordic Fiddlers, etc. But more importantly, in my opinion, he has been playing for soundtracks like Lord of the Rings of Power, God of War Ragnarok. Great games, by the way. And of course, he has projects like Vartrona, Skugsia, etc., where has been taking place. So he has already been rooted in the world of folk music as well as soundtracks. So very important. But he's mentioned here that he's also metalhead and he has gotten some help to create this album with other people. Then you scroll down and see the basic stuff like videos and store and all that stuff. That's not so interesting to us because what we need is this information in order to understand what's going on with Afargang. Now, when mentioning fiddle, obviously it comes into play with this kind of music. That is, it's never forgotten, but it's also not dominating this album. And that's a very important part of the whole music here. There are obviously lots of musicians who are too much in love with that one instrument alone, and that either dominates and ruins the experience in questions. So, think about these so-called guitar heroes who are so much into guitars that sometimes they forget to play cool songs because they're all about the technicalities and showing out skills and whatever. But Afargang is interesting because it actually maintains this great balance. It sounds metal, it sounds heavy enough and all that stuff, but never forgets its roots. Yet still, with these folkier parts and clean singing and all, it's never about just the fiddle being the main star. So like I said, it's essential here, but it's not like, hey, I'm here to play the show and the rest of you go to the background. Now, musically, this is almost like, hey, let's say Norwegian folk metal. And when I say that, I really mean, remember back in the days when, like in the 90s, late 90s and so forth, you had bands like Isengard by Fenris, and later on you had Storm by Fenris and Satyr from Afargang, obviously, and Kari Rueslotten, making some of the best folk metal out there ever is. And while those were the kind of very pioneer years for folk metal, these were side projects, which were then again overshadowed by bands like Darkthrone and Afargang, black metal respectively. So doesn't matter how creative years we were talking about in the 90s, and not just only Norway, but we'll focus on the Norway in this question. Those years were pretty much gone, especially when the main bands started growing bigger, and as such Norwegian folk metal, as far as it comes to the quality anyway, was more or less put on the background. And I get it, it's not the sexiest kind of music, especially when you have to compete against black metal and death metal, or traditional heavy metal for that matter. Folk metal has always been a little bit nerdy. I mean, I'm a kind of a nerdy guy. I do love my sci-fi and fantasy, be it literature, video games, movies, or whatever, or history for that matter. I have even been listening to folk music back in the days. I mean, quite a lot, in addition to heavy metal. So what I'm saying here is that I do know how interesting it can be to put these things together, but it is quite of a nerdy. And a lot of people are like, oh, why would you go with that, acoustic instruments, why would you need that, more like just like one track, a little bit of session music and all that stuff. So making folk metal both interesting and successful, and making it work rightly and nice ways, it's not an easy task. So even more, I'm happy about that. This album in question is actually good. Because the thing here is, like I said, it takes a lot of understanding of both of these worlds, metal music and folk music. And when you try to put them together seamlessly, you have to understand and create music beyond metal music, beyond folk music. And then you kind of have to understand how much you can put this or that together in order to work out. Basically like cooking. Add too much salt, it's gonna suck. Have not enough of it, well, it's gonna suck even if you can add it laterwards. I mean, the point here is, in this time, it's all making sense. You have those clean vocals which give you a powerful punch and give you a little bit of that Vardrona kind of a thing, etc. But there are those riffs which actually make sense, and the production is heavy enough, so it's beyond rock music. It's obviously very metallic, without going into the world of extreme metal, mind you. I mean, for example, the vocals are cleanish. They're not about, having raspy Viking songs on top of some fiddle playing or whatever. And that, in my opinion, separates this from the gray area, which is sometimes a little bit of a mess. Is this a, perfect folk metal album? I don't think one exists, but it's a very, very good attempt to creating one, because like I said, the balance is right there. The songs are nice to listen to. You have best of both worlds when it comes to folk music and metal music, and it never feels it's being forced together. It's not like you have those two pieces of magnets and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make you touch one another, when in fact you need just to switch the sides and put them together. That's what's happening here. They're like, magnetically connected, and suddenly like, okay, I have these two parts, metallic one and folk parts, and they are complementing one another. So what I'm saying here is indeed a really, really nice new band, which people should be checking out in case they are interested in folk metal to begin with. Not for everybody, but definitely something that could, make some waves, especially later on, if and when we get to see this, doing gigs and there are more albums and all that stuff. So even if I'm the only one out there, and I think I am, I hope this band will do more music in the future, so it's more not just like one trick pony, but something else. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for this. Links are provided in the description box. Go give it a go and enjoy.